sight of the blond-haired man shot twin reactions through Jeremy's veins. Concern, because Charlie was already injured. 2 of his fingers had been amputated by kidnappers just 2 weeks before. And relief, because Charlie always had this aura of quiet around him that was so peaceful it calmed all the shit whirling inside Jer's head. Which was really frickin' ironic, since Charlie was the kidnapping victim who just learned that his Army colonel father had been murdered in Afghanistan. "I knew I'd find you out here," Charlie said in that quiet way he had, his deep blue eyes trained on his footing. "Yeah? Why's that?" Jeremy asked as he extended a hand. Charlie grasped it as he made the last big step to the 2nd floor. The touch was filled with the slow burn of attraction that Jeremy had felt toward the other man since they'd met after his rescue. Charlie's eyes met Jeremy's, penetrating and intense, like he could read every thought Jeremy left unsaid. "Because I know this is hurting you." The words were spoken so quietly that the warm May wind whistling through the ruins nearly swallowed them, but they still hit Jeremy's chest like a thunderous clap. All his life, Jeremy had been the one able to let almost everything roll right off his back. The one always cutting it up and laughing. The one who didn't care what people said about his facial piercings, or the ink that covered him from neck to toes, or even his bisexuality. Hell, he stood here in a shirt that read, "I'm trying to give up sexual innuendos, but it's hard. So hard." But knowing he was responsible for the deaths of 2 men made him want to claw off his skin. The backs of his eyes stinging, Jeremy turned away. He'd lost it once in front of Charlie. Yesterday, after the full weight of the attack had hit him. Last thing he wanted was to do it again, because crying was so damn attractive. "All this can be fixed," he managed, waving vaguely at their surroundings. "Don't do that," Charlie said, his sneakers scuffing against the thin layer of debris that littered the concrete floor. Jeremy crossed the room to the remains of a window. It overlooked Hard Ink's giant gravel-covered parking lot, filled with the team's cars and trucks and the black and chrome gleam of over a dozen motorcycles. He braced a hand against the brick. "Do what?" Except he knew exactly what Charlie was talking about, because Charlie always cut right to the chase. His shyness meant he didn't talk much, especially when they were with the whole team, but Charlie was brilliant, maybe even a savant. And when he spoke, it was always worth hearing, and always honest. Charlie's fingers tugged at Jeremy's arm, and warmth seeped into his blood. "Look at me," Charlie said, the unusual command of his words making Jeremy turn. "You helped save my life. You gave me and my sister a home. You've made 1,000 sacrifices these past weeks." The wind blew longish dark blonde strands across Charlie's intense blue eyes, and he stepped closer, nearly backing Jeremy against the brick. They were evenly matched for height, which meant Charlie's eyes were right at Jeremy's, and so were his lips. "You are more kind and generous than anyone I've ever met, so don't pretend it doesn't hurt you that those guys died yesterday. And don't think I don't know you blame yourself for it." A knot lodged in Jeremy's throat. Any other time he would have cracked a joke about just how generous he could be, complete with an eyebrow waggle and an unspoken invitation. Now he slumped against the brick and dropped his chin to his chest, his gaze blurrily focusing on the t-shirt Charlie had borrowed from him. It read, "That's too much bacon," said no one ever. His kidnapping made returning to his home for any belongings too dangerous to attempt, so Charlie had been digging through Jeremy's shirt collection to find the least innuendo-filled options. Jeremy shuddered out a breath. Of course Charlie would know how he felt. Because the 2 of them were the only non-military guys among the group, they'd often been thrown together. They helped the team behind the scenes by doing computer research with Mars, or running communications and video surveillance when the team had an op out in the field. When they weren't working, they'd fallen into the habit of hanging out together. Jeremy had volunteered to keep an eye on a very sick Charlie when he'd first been rescued, and they just sort of clicked. Because of Jeremy's habit of talking nonstop, Charlie had gotten to know him about as well as anyone did.